Yo, welcome back to Power to the People Radio, the People's Podcast, your nonstop shop for information on financial literacy, mental health awareness, personal development. See, just overall being the best version of yourself, the most powerful person of yourself. It's your host Hugh Huncho on the set now, with my co-host, the one and only
Trey. Peace and power, people. Peace and power to the people. Peace, power, and love to the people, man. We back here with another banger. And if you guys didn't check out the last one, you guys definitely want to check that out. But Hugh, before we get started, man, like what you been up to, man?
Honestly, bro, just been, you feel me, grinding, thriving, surviving.
Yeah,
same day, every day, another dollar, another day, hitting the gym, working on business, working on other things and projects on the side for the podcast. But really been just keeping up to date and staying tapped in with this whole political climate that we're in right now, man. A couple of months from now, we're going to be having either the same president or a new president. And yeah, man, just been staying tapped in with that, bro, staying well informed and educated, bro. What about you?
Nah, same, man. I've been, growing and maintaining, doing the same thing, getting to the grind. And I've been keeping up what's going on in the world as well. There's a lot out there that can affect the people depending on how you perceive things and how you foresee the future. However, those are some of the things that we're going to talk about today.
Yes, sir.
Project 2025, man. Let's get into it. Project 2025.
Yeah, let's get into it. Let's honestly really get into it. It's funny because I got some of the article here, the PDF. I actually have it up here, so if we do ever need to
reference
back and reference from it, we can.
That's cool.
Very interesting. The fact that this is about what, a 900-page document. What were you saying?
My bad. I didn't mean to cut your wisdom. Now, before you get into it and before you pull it up, I wanted to know some of your thoughts when you first heard of it, and when did you first hear of Project 2025?
You know what's so funny, man? For something that's like this extensive and this important, I just recently heard about it like maybe a month or two ago. Right. I think I heard about it, 3 weeks before the debate.
Okay.
But for something that's like 900 pages, right? And it's and it's so laid out, right? And apparently that this was something that was in the works as of January 2023. Even as of right now, right? July 17th, I just heard about it a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago. And when I first heard about it, Trey, I'm not gonna lie, I thought it was fake. I thought that, that the ideas in the PDF itself were just too right-wing extreme that it just had to be fake, right? It had to be something that, maybe the Democratic Party or the left side put out to discredit the Republican Party or discredit Trump and his cabinet. But as I'm doing more research, it seems like it's being covered by MSNBC, CNN, Fox. So it's like, whoa, okay, so maybe there is some truth and some legitimacy to this. The only problem, though, is that even the same authors who write it, right, they're not talking about it. And even Donald Trump, right, who is basically the forefront on the Republican Party, he's not talking about it. So it's like, it's hard for me to gauge, is this fully legitimate, or is this kind of like a manifesto that they want to put out, but they're not really going to use it or implement it, right?
Interesting point.
I don't know, man. What's your thoughts, bro?
Before I get into my thoughts, I heard about it earlier on in the year. I didn't do any due diligence as far as doing any research at the time, but it did strike my interest. And similar to you, I just started to do some research on it, like prior to the election, because that's when everyone started talking about it. And it seems like it became a trending topic. So it's, like you say, it's quite interesting to say the least, man. I can't believe something like this could be implemented and then put out to the public like they're not going to disagree with what they're going to get, like with what they have planned. You know what I mean?
I think anybody who, whether you're left wing or right wing, if you're a conservative, right, if you align with the Republican Party, I think if you read this document to its full entirety, you're going to be like, whoa, hold up, maybe I definitely lean more right. I definitely lean more conservative, but this might be a little bit too extreme, so much to the point where this could hurt. This could hurt somebody. It doesn't matter whether they're Republican or Democrat, right? This can hurt you just by reading some of the policies or methodologies, right, being preached in the PDF.
100%. And, just to get into the manifesto, as my brother was talking about, just to give some background in case no one done their research on it, this is a 920-page manifesto written by 38 different authors. And it was started, the whole Project 2025 was created by the Heritage Foundation. I don't know if you guys know who the Heritage Foundation is, but they have a historical record of going with the right wing and doing some, I would put it as extreme things. And the reason why I say this is because they ran with Ronald Reagan back in the 1980s, and they implemented a lot of the same processes and the same policies that they have implemented in Project 2025. For those of y'all who don't know your prior presidents, I recommend you guys do a little bit of research because we all know that history repeats itself, right? So if you look at Ronald's run and some of the things that he did, and we look at Project 2025, they kind of mirror each other as far as the conservatism on what they're trying to do. So I want to introduce you guys to one of the presidents. Actually, he's the president of the Heritage Fund. His name is Kevin Roberts. If you guys don't know him, I definitely want you guys to Google his name. He is one of the faces of the Heritage Fund who created Project 2025. And he's very important and prominent when we have this discussion because he states some radical things as far as their agenda and how strong and how much will they have in order to make sure this goes as planned. So I was doing a bit of research and I looked up Kevin Roberts, and I got to see what he was about a little bit. He had an interview, and in his interview, he literally stated, word for word, he says, we're in the process of the Second American Revolution, which will remain bloodless as long as the left allows it to be. Do you hear the words that just came out of my mouth? That came from him. This is crazy. He's literally saying we're willing to go to bat. We're willing to have the second revolutionary war to get Project 2025 launched. But if the left doesn't allow it, then we might have to draw blood. This is crazy. This is the guy who's the president of the Heritage Foundation who created it. So what are your thoughts on that statement? You like, is that too extreme? Is he just bluffing, or like, what are your thoughts on that?
I feel like this is a classic case of when there's a great evil in the world, a greater good rises, or when there's a great good in the world, a greater evil rises to combat it, right? And what do I mean by this is that, we had Barack Obama, right? Then we had Donald Trump, and then we have Joe Biden. But as we can see in these last 4 years, this political campaign has done the most change in American economy than the past 10, 20 years, in my personal opinion, right? A lot of things have changed as far as inflation, as far as gas prices, as far as policies, as far as school curriculums, right? A lot of things have changed since Biden has gotten into office. So I think this whole Project 25, this is the right wing's attempt at taking a Hail Mary from the left side and then try and swing back with their own Hail Mary. But what happens is, right, two sides of an extreme is never good, right? Two sides of an extreme is never good, right? If you're all nice all the time, people start walking over you. If you're just an asshole all day, right, nobody wants to be friends with you, right? So you can't be too nice and you can't be too mean. You have to have a balance. Project 25 is literally the manifesto of the right wing going to the farthest extreme so they could try and come back with all of these left wing policies, all of these democratic policies that's been going on from Biden's team and campaign. Now, with Kevin Roberts, I apologize if I mess up his name, Kevin Robert, with him saying a statement like that, that shows you their intentions behind this policy, how die hard they're ready to really enforce it, right? He was the one who not only funded it, helped create it, and I'm not gonna lie, Trey, that kind of scares me,
Yeah.
right? That scares me not only for if this policy was to ever get implemented, it scares me in the event that this policy doesn't get implemented,
Exactly.
right? Both, right? If they're that, right, because growing up in inner cities, right, when somebody has a devotion or dedication to protect their block, they're willing to sacrifice themselves, people in their path, right, anything to make sure that block is safe. And in this particular case, just because these are politicians doesn't mean that they're not going to move like gangsters, right? Doesn't mean that they're not going to do things behind scenes in the shadows to get their way, right? We know politics has a lot of smoke and mirrors, so him saying that is him literally showing that there's a smoking gun right now. And right. I think and the reason why I'm speaking in this kind of terminology, right, in this kind of ways, because I never want to do people's thinking for them. I just want them to be well informed and educated enough so they can make a logical decision themselves. I think anybody, if you read the manifesto and you think logically, it doesn't matter if you were on the right side, it doesn't matter if you're on the left side. You're going to disagree with not everything, but you're going to disagree with a large majority of everything that's in the manifesto. Honestly, I read it. I didn't read everything, of course, because it's so long, but it was very hard for me to find, Trey, in there where there's bullet points that are like, no, this is good. This makes sense. They have things in there where they're requiring, right, schools that are funded by the government to take the ASVAB, right, which is the military entrance exam, right? And what they also are thinking about doing is getting rid of the Department of Education, which is the government agency, right, the government body that is helping put private funding, personal funding, well, not personal funding, government funding to schools, high school, colleges, things of that nature, helping kids that are from middle or lower incomes to get financial aid, things of that nature. So if they get rid of the Department of Education, right, they reduce the funding from these schools that have predominantly Black, brown, middle, and lower class people, right, whether you're middle or lower class white, these are the schools that they're going to be taking the funding away from. And then the same schools that they're going to be taking funding away from, those schools have to be, they have to take tests to graduate to say that they're enlisted into the military. However, private schools, right, very wealthy communities, they don't have to take the military entrance exam. And they're not getting funding.
Right.
Because they're not getting funding from the government.
Right.
So this whole method, this whole system, right, of doing things is the same thing that they do in North Korea. The same thing they do in China. In China, everybody who graduates from a public high school has to enlist into the military for 2 years. That's why they have such a big China force. So my whole thought process as I'm reading this is like, why? What is the reason for this? It's not to just create a bigger divide between middle and lower class, right? What are they trying to? And then the whole policy about how people between the ages of 18 to 26 have to enlist into the draft. What are we getting prepared for? That's my next question. Is like, what war are we trying to get prepared for? Right?
That's a good question.
With him having that statement, that's literally the signs of a smoking gun. I think people need to start paying attention. Whether you're right wing, left wing, we need to start paying attention not only to the policymakers, who these people are, and their thought process behind something like that. Because anybody who says that, man, he's not getting my vote, in my first opinion. You seem too extreme. You seem like you're willing to push the button on the nuke when a lot of our issues can be done through a conversation. You see what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And it strikes interest. It's very intriguing that he stated that, because if you're willing to have a revolutionary war, right, within your own country, and we already have external conflicts, that's really not great timing as far as you trying to push something and you being willing to go to the extremes as having a revolutionary war. That's not the best timing, if you ask me, because in history,
it raised alarm.
A country is seen as weak if their people are not united. You understand what I'm saying? And when you have civil matters that you're willing to go to bat about, that's the perfect time to strike. So why announce this extreme statement? Is it? I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but hey, I'm not gonna hold back. I do want to just ask a question to the people, and maybe this is gonna strike additional questions. But are we really planning to keep America as a democracy as it was and how it was created? Are we still trying to keep our diplomatic power structure? You understand? And if so, then are we headed in the right direction? Are we headed in the right direction by having leaders of the Republican administration making statements like this, announcing to the public that we're willing to have a revolutionary war? That, like I just stated, that's a perfect time for other countries, potentially Russia, potentially China, to come into and to create even more division. Let's say we don't even go to war straight off the bat, but that's a perfect time for them to come in to create even more division, right? We're supposed to be united as a country, even though there is a left wing and a right wing. However, the interest should be the people. This to me is dividing the people. So I do want to pivot a little bit as far as our talking point.
Uh,
I did
before you do,
yeah.
because I do want to just add on to that one point really
Mhm.
quickly, right? Just for the people who don't know, America's bloodiest war, meaning the war that Americans had the most American casualty,
Civil War.
wasn't a war overseas, wasn't the Revolutionary War. It was the Civil War. It was Americans fighting against Americans. That's the bloodiest war in American history. Was us fighting against ourselves, the North versus the South, right? So my whole thought process behind this is that you can never really think what other people are thinking, right? You can only kind of just go off what they say and kind of just do your best to have make the best well informed decision. But it sounds like what he's saying is he's trying to create about another civil war, but this time instead of it being the South versus the North, it'll be people who lean more left wing compared to people who lean more right wing. But now for the individuals who don't lean either, where are we going to be at? Right? What is going to
Caught in
happen
the
to
fire.
us? Right? You know that whole thing.
Caught in the crossfire.
Yeah, exactly. Right. The whole saying that if you're not on my side, you're on their side. Well, no,
Right.
I'm not on neither of guys' side. That's how I
Right.
see this right now. We don't have a lot of great options, right? With good old Sleepy Joe, right? And we don't have a lot of good options with we don't know what this man might do, Donald Trump, right? So it's like you have two very unpredictable candidates in this position representing our right and our left wing, and these are the most predominant parties in America. But and I have to give credit to Trey, right? Because he was the one who actually brought this to my attention. There actually is a third option for anybody who doesn't know. We're going to talk about it a little bit later towards the end of the episode. But from that one statement, it seems like he is deliberately like putting his flag, saying that, hey, this is my position, this is my acclamation. For anybody who side with me, get prepared, because if they don't agree, we're gonna be ready to pick up arms and go to bat for this.
Right.
And just like how you said, if a country's in the middle of a civil war and they're fighting amongst each other, that leaves us easy target not only for other countries to do some kind of interior, external espionage, right? To maybe even attack us abroad, right? That us fighting amongst ourselves would not be the solution in this particular case
at all. And now to pivot a little bit, I want to talk about the goals as far as what the hedge fund is trying to do a Project 2025 and what the right wing wants in the U.S. And what they want for the U.S. and the people. So I didn't read the manifesto to its entirety, but I gathered a few points here for you guys to see and understand some of the things that are underway that might be in our near future. Hopefully not. But they want to rescue the country. This is verbatim too in the manifesto. They said, quote unquote, they want to rescue the country from the grip of the radical left, uniting the conservative movement and the American people against elite and rural and woke culture warriors. The goal is to overhaul the U.S. government from the inside out, with the ultimate goal of furthering the far-right wedge issues and concentrating as much power as possible in the hands of the president. So, understanding the conservative...
Basically, they want to legally sign in a dictatorship. Basically.
Yeah,
basically.
Pretty much.
Because the whole reason why we have the judicial branch, the legislative branch, and the executive branch is so we can have the whole checks and balances as far as power, right, in
Right.
America.
Mhm.
America is the only country, from my knowledge, right, don't quote me on this, where we have two very extreme wing parties, right, the Democrats and the Republicans. Other countries, they have a different political system, right, where there's still different parties, but we're the only country that's actually divided amongst red, blue, right, and then we have the independent parties, and then we have the naturalists, right, we have these other parties, right, these other minor parties. But the reason why we have these two parties is so, of course, we can have debate. And then under these two parties, we have the legislative branch. The president can't just pass whatever he wants because then he has to take it to Congress, right, which would be the judicial branch. And then he has to take it to the legislative branch, and then he has to make sure that it follows the law, right? Or the Supreme Court is going to be like, hey, what are you doing, president? You can't do that, which would be the judicial branch. They're basically saying, right, fuck Congress, fuck us, the people, fuck the courts and the judge, right? The people who are lawyers who study the law. We're going to put all the power in the executive branch, which would be the president. So if he says a curfew by 8:00, there's a curfew by 8:00. There's no debate. There's no but. If he passes a law saying everybody gets a stimulus check, everybody gets a stimulus check. If he passes a law says no more birth control or student housing or funding, no. There's no if or and buts about it. They're basically, from that one thing, the president, whatever he says goes. And that is literally the definition of a dictator.
And I want to add to that point. I agree. I'm not a fan of America and some of the, like, don't get me wrong. I love the fact that, we have so-called freedom, right? It's a land of the free or whatever. And we're very fortunate, versus other countries, right? We have a lot that we take advantage of or that we take granted for, right? In terms of living in America. However, when it comes to how this country was first branded and how this country first formed together, it was off of democracy. When you have something like that in place, you're destroying the whole way that America was set up. Now, don't get me wrong. What they're trying to do, like as far as destroying what they set up, I don't think it's a bad idea. Now, their solution is radical and it doesn't make sense and it's not for the people at all. You understand what I'm saying? So I'm not trying to sound like an anarchist or, any extremist or anything like that, anybody of anarchy at all. But let's be honest, our government is, they're a little bit crooked, if we're going to be honest, and the system as well, like we talked about in our previous episodes. So as far as trying to disband the government and the system, I don't disagree with that. But the replacement and the solution that they're trying to do, now that is extreme. Because like you said,
that's not the answer.
Like you said, it sounds like a dictatorship. I do not agree with that, not at all, whatsoever. However, it looks like let me add this last point as far as what the mandate is, and it's adding to your point. So Project 2025 plans to gut the federal workforce by removing federal employees and installing loyalists. For those of y'all who don't understand that term, that's basically Trump it's literally on the page of the manifesto. You can Google it right now. He wants people who side with him to be a part of the system. You can literally go on the internet and go on the manifesto and fill out a waiver. They'll ask you a few questions to see if you qualify. And if you qualify with being on Trump's side, you can potentially be a unqualified federal worker. When I say unqualified, meaning you probably don't have as much expertise as the people who are already in office do, right? This is how much and this is how far he's willing to go in order to get this launched. You understand? But go ahead with your point.
And think about that. Loyalists, right? Just think about that. Loyalists. Like they're loyal to the cause no matter if it's wrong or right? How many people do we know? How many yes men do we know in the world? Right? Like, and you know what's funny, right? A dictator can only become a dictator unless he has a lot of yes men or a lot of loyalists around him. And the only way that he can maintain that dictatorship is by having these people around him as well. Because the moment you have somebody who's not seeing your viewpoint 100%, what they're going to do is that they can start sabotaging, right, your motives or your methods, right? They can start leaking information out. So they're doing this very strategically to the point where, hey, once this is implemented, we're trying to make sure we implement as much safety measures so there's never, we never have to backtrack. Basically, what I'm thinking is that if this is implemented, we may never have a presidential debate again after Donald Trump. Right? Because if you think about it, he could just say, "Hey, no, we're not going to do no kind of presidential election 4 years anymore," because he has the power to do that. He can rewrite the Constitution as he wants, because that's literally what Project 25 is saying.
Another thing that he can do that is very scary. Let's say that he wants to pass a policy or whatever the case may be. Abortion, for example. No more abortion. No more abortion at any facilities. He doesn't even have to go to Congress to ask them, could they pass this law? Since there's going to be loyalists, there's going to be people on his side. All he has to do is tell them, hey, don't give out any more abortion pills, or hey, don't accept any more people who want to, have abortions. That is scary. He has inside control. Parenthood, all of that. He has inside control. He doesn't have to go to Congress to ask with them, you know what I'm saying, and see if they're willing to do something. That is scary. He literally has the power to do anything he wants.
Mm-hmm. Let me see here as well, because even though I didn't read every single passage in this, this is it is a lot. It is definitely. I try doing my best to read as much as I possibly can, but I definitely want to talk about some of the key points and key things that they want to change, that I want to bring to people's attention. Because I think once we bring it to people's attention, that's when they can make the most informed decision. Because right now, even from the rally that Donald Trump had, right, and he's alive, right? Thank God, because we don't want nobody to die, of course, right? Especially in a political climate like this, right? We don't want another JFK, right, situation, of course. But you see how many people are in the rally backing him, supporting him, root. You know what I'm saying? And I'll be completely honest, right? At the beginning of this year, I definitely would say I leaned a little bit more towards the conservative side. But as you start reading through this article, reading through this PDF, I think anybody who's a logical, sound thinking human being, regardless if you're a conservative, regardless if you are Republican or not, you're not going to want to vote for this president in the event that these things are passed, because they will affect you. And I think that they will affect you more negatively than positively. And let me tell you exactly what some of them are, right? First thing is that, of course, he wants to gut a lot of federal programs as far as homeland security, as far as the Department of Education, the Department of Agriculture, Department of Energy, right? These are the Department of Health and Human Resources, Department of Housing and Urban Development, right? And the Department of Justice, the Department of Transportation. These are all in the Department of Veteran Affairs. These are all departments that he wants to remove funding from and basically start doing a hack job at, right? Now imagine that you're a veteran. Now you can't go to the VA whenever you want and get unlimited medication, right? You're not getting supported anymore, right? Because they started chopping away from it. Department of Housing. Now you can't get affordable housing, right? Now you can't even get Section 8 because they say, oh, you not only need this kind of income threshold, right? But now you have various things as far as race, as far as where you originally came from, right? Your zip code, right? Making it harder for you to get funding, right? I mean, not funding, harder for you to find affordable housing. The Department of Education, right? They want to take funding out of public schools, right, that are getting funding from the government. Even though these school curriculums, right, we talked about on our last episode, they need to be changed anyway. But taking money out of the school system isn't the solution, right? That's going to do nothing but hurt these students.
And I want to answer that point real quick, specifically on a public school system. They also want to take away reduced lunches for kids. And let's be honest, man, there's a lot of kids that come from the inner cities or, that come from poverty that rely on that one meal a day. You know what I mean? So if you're taking that away from the kid, you're taking away food off of kids' plate. Like, that's just...
And you're hurting their parents. You heard their parents, because now the parents have to worry about breakfast, they have to worry about lunch and dinner.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of parents, the reason why they put their kids in school is because they need to have something that can occupy their kid throughout the day, right? Because they're working, they have to work to pay and to pay bills, right? Maybe people who are rich might not be able to understand that, but yes, people really do work out here to pay the bills that are supposed to help themselves and their kids. They send their kids to school so they can spend that 8 hours right going to work. But that's also a time for the kid to get, like you said, a free meal.
Exactly.
So now you take that away. The parent now either has to pay for the school lunch, right? Or he has to pay extra money to make sure the kid has food when he goes to school, right? And that alone, that one thing can start changing the family dynamics for Black and brown people. Because if you're already struggling to get by in this economy, and the one safe haven is that you don't need to worry about lunch for your kid 5 days out the week because the school is able to give it to you based off of your income. Do you know how many kids? Because I went to a vocational school, thank God, right? Do you know how many kids literally did not eat because they weren't getting school funding, but their parents also couldn't afford to just give them food every single day? Do you think that these kids are going to be able to stay focused in class and and mind you, these are the kids who didn't eat. They were always the troublemakers too. Because think about it, right? You restless, right? You hungry. The only thing you could do is cause trouble, so you don't focus on your stomach all damn day.
Right.
So so all of these things, these policies that they're just so casually putting into this manifesto, I really don't think that they're thinking about the long-term effect and how it's going to affect people, whether you're Black, brown, white, Hispanic, middle, lower, or upper class. It's going to affect everybody. And I think it's going to affect people more negative than positive, right? More negative than positive, especially about abortion, especially helping kids taking the military exam, reducing education, reducing housing. Man, it just seems like this whole manifesto is just to help people who are already rich and empowered. Literally.
And hey, real quick, I want to take time out to say this, right? You passed over it quickly, and I think this needs to be talked about. We all seen Trump's rally and the tragedy that it was, as far as him almost getting his head blown off, right? Thank God we didn't see that televised, right? We already witnessed JFK's assassination, even though Trump is in the president.
It didn't happen.
However, this is very vital in terms of how it's going to move forward with the election. Like, before Trump's rally, his numbers were kind of dwindling as far as the race is concerned. Looks like Biden was on top for the most part. Now that Trump is seen as a survival, and to those patron people out there, they might love that, and I might get them energetic and fueled up for those Trump lovers and whoever's patriotic out there. I just hope and I pray that we don't make a mistake as far as seeing his survival as putting him in the place of a hero, because we shouldn't
or as an act of God. Because Trey, I'm telling you, I had a conversation with somebody who said that. Yeah, no, I apologize. I don't mean to cut you off, but I literally had a time where I was talking to somebody, and they believed that Jesus Christ was the reason why Trump was. Hey, listen, don't get me wrong, right? I could just tell that they definitely do lean more right wing because of all these old Christian values that they. They really said that to me. They was like the good old Christian Jesus Christ. Donald Trump.
If he believes that, hey, let him believe that if he believes that, But what we can't ignore is what they're trying to do. And you know what? While I just bring that up, I do want to also mention that Trump stated that he doesn't know anything about Project 2025. He said he doesn't know.
And that's my thing right there, bro. That is where I am most afraid. And I think anybody is going to be afraid of that. Man.
Come on. How
we don't know what to believe.
Listen, no, I know what to believe because that's false. How are you saying you don't know who has to do, like, who has to do with Project 2025 when the president of the Heritage Fund is somebody who shook hands with? You literally have history with this person, Kevin Roberts. Look at some of the videos in the interview. If you look at Kevin Roberts and Donald Trump, they literally met each other before and they talked to each other. I don't know how often, but they have in the past. So you just said you don't know who's behind it, yet you met this person before, and I'm pretty sure you know exactly what he's up to, right? So that's a bold lie right there. That doesn't make any sense. We have to stop believing these politicians for their words, and we need to start looking at them for their historic actions, right? What is the Heritage Fund historically known for? They're known for making conservatism extreme, right? They're known for making the right very extreme. Like I said, go look at Ronald Reagan's run and look at how he changed the economy, how he was looked at to the public eye as a good guy, right? But the whole time he was making the economy tank, and he was making the rich more rich and the poor more poor. So if you ask me, that's what this Project 2025 entails. Why? Let's talk about the taxes. We didn't even get into that. They're literally trying to change the taxes, which I agree with, but the resolution, they're trying to now tax us based on consumption. Now, they didn't go into the details yet as far as how that works. So we don't know who exactly if that impacts and affects the most. So there's not a lot to say about that right now. However, I'm indicating that they might, make the people on top benefit more than the people on bottom suffer, like it usually is. You know what I mean? So I say all that to say, I feel like some of these things need to be taken into account for, as far as Donald Trump and him saying false things on Twitter and stating that he doesn't know anything about Project 2025. The fact that the man survived the gunshot, thank God, we shouldn't be looking at him as an idol or anything like that. Now, I'm not saying
honestly, now that you mentioned that, now I was gonna say, now that you mentioned that, that makes me, I don't want to be a conspiracy theory kind of guy, but now that you mentioned that, Trey, that actually makes me lean a little bit more towards that I don't know, man. That whole situation could have been a little bit more suspicious than we thought. If he was down in the polls, and then now, due to surviving that situation, that can boost a lot of people's emotional morale to support him. I don't know, man.
Right.
I don't know that. I don't know.
And I don't
Things
even
don't happen by coincidence, bro.
I'm gonna keep my thoughts to myself on the whole incident, because I don't feel like potentially getting canceled, or I can deal with the comments. Like, that's nothing. But yeah, we'll just say it was questionable as far as the time.
What you mean the gun was plastic? What you mean the gun was plastic?
Facts.
What you mean it was a pet bullet? What you mean? What you mean it was an airsoft gun?
I'm ready to hear what Trump has to say about it, though. Man, I don't know.
I'm sorry. And I know there's a little bit of a delay, but what were you saying, though, Trey?
Now, I was going to say, I can't wait till Trump speaks on it. I want to know what he's going to say. Because I ain't going to lie, he's funny, man. I wouldn't be surprised if he said something off the wall.
Because my whole thing with this whole Project 25 is that of course we've seen Trump played a little game before. Before he came into office, he was saying a lot of those things on Twitter and stuff like that. But when he got into office, he didn't do a lot of the things that he promises, as far as like the wall, as far as, he definitely did send a lot of people back home. But as far as building the wall, as far as trying to eliminate, honestly, no, I don't think abortion was one of his topics. I think it was just really the biggest thing that he was running on at that time was the wall. Was really the wall. And then when he got into the office, he did everything but the wall. He tried building it, from what I understood, but did everything but the wall. Now with this whole Project 25, what this does, as a businessman, right? Trump is very smart, but we know businessmen and business people, they lie, right? They lie to get to where they want to be at and what they want, right? Look, it's part of business, right? That's why they say, hey, it's just business, right? We know that saying, hey, it's just business, right? So my thing is this whole Project 25 as a ploy to get more people to lean towards his side? Because if that's I don't know, man. I don't know. It's like I feel as though the reason why his polls has dropped so much is because so many people who are right wing aren't aligning with a lot of these policy and things that they're trying to implement in this PDF.
Right. And to answer your point, I'm surprised that they came out with this. Normally, what they have in store, like, yeah, they'll say Trump plans to do this. He'll let the public know what he plans to do. However, we all know there's different people in his administration that help him execute and help him plan on what they actually plan to do that might not be shared with the public. So I'm just kind of surprised as far as them actually launching it to the public and allowing them to see what they have in store. Like, I'm not sure. I haven't researched it, but
That's what I'm saying.
I don't think this is historically, prevalent as far as like even the Heritage Fund when they were back in Ronald Reagan at the time. I don't even think they did that for Ronald Reagan. Now, granted, it was the 1980s. I don't even think people had computers like that. So that might be the case right there as far as people just not being in tune with what they have as far as their plan. So they're putting things in our face more and more as far as their agenda, right? Like, and I'm not even talking about the government. I'm just talking about the higher ups, what they plan, how they plan to shape America and how they plan to shape the world. It's up to the people to start taking charge if we want to see a change. Everyone is fearful of the fact that Donald Trump may
start
win.
Really thinking for ourselves.
But let's say he does win. Are we going to allow these policies to get in place? Are we going to allow our children who are in less need? Are we going to allow them to be starving because their school lunch is taken away? Are we going to allow the young boys and young girls who go to schools that are federally funded? Are we going to allow them to take the ASVAB and graduate and go straight to the military and serve when they don't want to do so? Are we going to allow these things to take place is my question. We have to remember where we once were as a people. We once were so tough. We once had so much fire in us when it comes to the people's rights. You understand what I'm saying? Think about how many strikes that we went on. Think about how many people marched and how many people were revolted when it comes to the government and the higher ups not being in the service of the people. We need to get back to those times. Just because we have a cell phone in front of our face, just because there's people that's been assassinated that were in leader positions, doesn't mean that we can't create a change. We need to change our mindsets as far as giving all of our power to the people that are up higher up. In my personal opinion, the power is in the people. It doesn't matter what Project 2025 says. It doesn't matter if Trump wins. If we band together and if we stand and if we're not with that, there's not much that they can do. You understand what I'm saying? That there's power in the people, hence the name of the podcast. So what I'm trying to get everybody to understand is like, don't even be fearful. What we really need to do is strategize. Like, let's say he doesn't win. In a case where there's another attempt of another dictate strategy or a dictator, process that goes into power, we need to, this is America. We're ran on capitalism. We're ran on democracy. There should not be one person running a show for 10 plus years. You understand what I'm saying? That's never been historically a thing in America. So let's not not invent that. You know what I mean?
And I think that's where Kevin Robert is leading towards when he says that, if the left, right? I think when he says left, I think he's saying anybody who doesn't align with me. I think that's what he says. Anybody who doesn't agree with me. If they don't agree with me, right? If they agree with me and we do this the right way, it's gonna be peaceful. But if it doesn't, right, then no blood will be lost. I think he's saying that he knows good and well that if Donald Trump does become in office and they do try and pass a lot of these laws, the American people, it doesn't matter how weak as a society, right, or weak as people that they like to say that we are, right. This Generation Z of being weak and lazy, right. They say these things knowing that they're not really true of who we are. We are the hardest working generation ever. We work more hours, right, for less pay than our great parents and our great grandparents, right? In comparison of inflation, of course, at that time, right? Like they work 8 hours for $40, right? But of course, different. But we are the hardest working generation. We are the most smartest and the most informed due to the internet. So I think he very well knows that if this does pass, people aren't going to sit for it. People aren't going to sit idly by. There's going to be protests. There's going to be riots. There's going to be revolution. And now we are also in the day and age where most people in the United States are armed, have a concealed carry permit or license with them. And if you don't, I highly recommend you get it now, because if by a slim chance of unlikelihood Trump does get elected and this is passed, I'm not going to stand for it, that's for sure. And I'm hoping other people, whether you're black, brown, or white, you don't stand for it as well. If you call yourself an American, this whole PDF is anti-American. It's anti-freedom. It's anti-democracy, right? It's literally this is literally rewriting the entire way America has came about. And my whole thing too is that if Biden, right, gets reelected as well, and something similar to this is implemented but different, but on the left wing side, I think we shouldn't stand for that either, Trey. Right? If they try and say, oh, let's going to change the full school curriculums, right? We're sending a bunch of money over to Ukraine. We're going to allow a bunch of undocumented people. We shouldn't stand for that either, because that's just as un-American as Project 25 as well. Right, in my honest, humble opinion. Of course, we know.
I agree with you.
We know which one is worse, right? Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say I agree with you. I think we need to start acting as far as what I'm trying to say is we need to start protesting as if we used to, even if it's not as extreme as what Trump is doing. If it's something that is not in favor of the people, we need to get together.
We need to speak up.
Yeah, we need to speak up. And like you say, it might not be that far right as far as being extreme like Trump, but there's some things that are going on right now that we're not even talking about. Like everyone's talking about Project 2025 and some of the things that are horrific that are going to take place, but they're taking place right now. Hugh, I don't know if you know about this, bro, but in 8+ states, they're already taking away school lunches. Literally, the public schools have, I don't know who's in charge of the public schools, but whoever is in charge, the government, of course, the government has denied, and look this up, the government has denied food to the lunches in the school programs right now that are for the summer. They have canceled it and denied it. Why? It seems like Project 2025 is already being launched, if you ask me. So why aren't anybody saying anything about this? And the same thing as far as the history, right? They're trying to take away, they're trying to abolish anything to do with any racial history or, any, I know specifically African American history. They're trying to do away with that. And I believe that they already did in Florida. I don't know how accurate that is or not, but that's what Trump plans to do as well. So it's like Biden does agree with some of the things that Trump has in his 2025 manifesto. But we're not,
that's the thing. That's the thing too. Yeah, exactly. That's my whole thing as well, Trey. I'm glad that you brought that up. If you notice how the left move as well, they move very similar to the conservative, right? It's just that they're doing things differently. They're just trying to. I was just about to say that. I said they throw a rock and hide their hand. The difference is that the conservative throws their rocks and they point at somebody. You feel me? The Democrats, they throw their hand and they hide it. They throw the rock and then they hide their hand. You see what I'm saying? So it's like they're both still throwing the rock, right? They're both still throwing the rock. They're both still a problem. So before we close out, I do want to give people something not only for them to leave this episode with, right? Highly recommend you tap into the Project 25, whether you read the PDF, but for the people who may swing a little bit more right, or maybe swing a little bit more left, or may not swing either or, but for the people who definitely are not extremists of either side. Trey brought this to my attention, so I'm gonna just introduce the individual, and Trey can maybe give more information on it. But we do have a third candidate running for the president as the independent party, and it's just so funny that we had that whole situation at Trump's rally. But it is actually JFK's nephew, Robert Kennedy Jr. I hope I did not mess his name up. RFK. Excuse me. That's it, right? R
Oh yeah,
RFK,
RFK.
right?
Yeah, yeah. RFK.
RFK, right? Perfect. So Trey brought him to my attention. I've been doing some research on him. Seems like this is a man who not only practices law, he literally sues government agencies and corporations for malpractice or malicious things. So yeah, this is a person who's literally walking around with righteousness, right? A stamp on his chest. So Trey, if you could give them a little bit more context or information on it,
Mm-hmm.
or where they can learn a little bit more about him and how they can also try and support his campaign, because honestly, man, he seems like the best option now at this point.
No, absolutely. And if anybody wants to know more about RFK, you guys have cell phones. You can either Google them, TikTok them, whatever you use to research. Definitely look him up. I looked at a few YouTube's videos of him, and yeah, historically he is known for going after pharmacies and going after companies that it gets extensive, but basically that have bad practices as far as having poison in their food and things like that, and distributing poison to the people pretty much. And he won a lot of his cases. So to me, that's very admirable and very respectable. And some of the things that he stands for, I like as well. I do have another area on how this may go, though. I would say he's the most presidential in, as far as like all the candidates that are running. However, I don't think he has enough publicity to be able to actually win this thing. And I hate to say that because I really would like to see him in the presidential seat. Some people who are left wing or right wing don't like him because they say he's a conspiracy theorist. That's literally the only thing that they have on him, is that he's a conspiracy
My
theorist.
whole thing
Other
is
than that,
what defines this conspiracy theory, bro? It's only conspiracy theory
literally,
until it's proven that it's real. Right?
exactly.
When everybody was saying about the whole conspiracy theory with the CIA, right, being involved in JFK, right, being
Mhm.
involved in during the Cold War, right, for experimentations, right, people were saying, "Oh no, that wasn't true," but then the files got leaked, and then now it was all confirmed. So a
So,
conspiracy theory is only
right,
a conspiracy theory until it's proven true. So
right.
for all those people who are right wing or left wing, I don't want you to look at an individual just because his theories haven't been proven yet. You should look at this person like, wow, I probably should vote for him, because if his theories are true, goddamn, I'm glad that I picked the right guy.
And to add to your
You
point,
see what I'm
literally,
saying?
and to add to your point, a lot of his theories did come true, right? When he was talking about COVID and Dr. Fauci and how some of those people who were in higher positions as far as promoting, the vaccine were crooked and corrupt. It was true. Dr. Fauci has so many lawsuits against him right now for promoting the vaccine. So
Look at that.
yeah, and there's not just that. There's a lot of other things that he dissects and debunks as well, as far as what's not right in those companies. But I do want to say this though: look him up, research him. I'm going to commend everybody for voting. Period. Right? Just go out and vote. Whatever they say, vote. Whatever. Do your research on who you vote. This election is very, 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 very important. Now, like if we vote for the independent party, which is RFK, I'm not gonna lie, Trump is gonna have an easy win. And the reason why I say that is because if RFK gets all the votes, you know what I'm saying, or majority of, like, let's say black votes or whatever, if a lot of people are voting for him, then Trump is the next best thing, because he's gonna steal all of Biden's votes. You understand what I'm saying? I don't think it's going to
Hmm.
be the other way. I don't think people are going to steal Trump's votes and it's going to be Biden. No, they're going to steal Biden's votes and Trump is going to be the victor. So that's the only thing when it comes to voting for the
Hmm.
independent party at this point in time. He just doesn't have enough pull. Um, I don't want to see Biden in that office either, but it's hard, man. It's
Yeah.
hard. I'm conflicted just like the
Yeah.
rest of America, but I know Project 2025 is not it. So, I mean, you guys
It's
could.
definitely not the solution. We're in a sticky spot for sure.
Mhm.
But Project 25 is not the powder or the dust, you could say, that's going to get us out of it. That's for sure. It's not the magical sprinkle dust that's going to get us out. I think it's going to put us in a worse position, especially if we already have like economic tension now
Mhm.
amongst middle and lower class people, if you start taking things away from them, a dog gets aggressive when it's desperate. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm saying, like, I hope with Kevin Robert, he can say things like this because he's wealthy, he's rich, he's in a position where maybe his family might not get impacted. But in the event that a civil war does happen in America after this election, it is going to be something that is going to not only go down in history, but it is something that's going to affect a lot of people. So I really would want us to avoid that as much as possible. So wherever this podcast episode lands, whether it lands in front of Trump's eyes, whether it lands in front of Biden or JF or Robert Kennedy's eyes, yo, man, you guys are 3 times me and Trey's age. Figure it out. Figure it out, because we as the people, we're not going to stand. We're not going to stand for Project 25, and we're not going to stand for another 4 years, the past 4 years that we have.
And I want to add this last point before we close out. Project 2025, we forgot to go over it, but this is huge for the people in the working class. They want to get rid of the middle class people. That's not good. So you're telling me you want a society where there's the rich and there's the poor. That's just why America is so great. We're literally one of the only countries that have a middle class. You understand what I'm saying? So
literally.
Like, yeah, literally. That's what makes America great. Because you can still have a good life.
And this is the thing too. They're so smart that they don't realize that they're tricking the rich people as well. Just because somebody is rich and has money doesn't mean that they're intelligent, doesn't mean that they're wise. It doesn't even mean that they're a good person. They're going to say what they need to say to the rich people so they can get their support, get their backing, right, get their pull, not realizing these rich people, if you don't have no middle class, your business is going to fall. Like, you're not going to, like, people don't realize the upper class, the rich, you guys rely on the middle and the lower class to keep your business afloat, to keep that penthouse you got all nice and clean, right? To keep those rental properties you have in good working condition. Like, you need people underneath you, right? Don't think that you're so high on the top of the mountain that you can't see the bottom. Because when you're at the top, you can fall even faster and even harder. So I really just hope this gets maybe to the right people. And honestly, I do think we should do maybe a part 2 to this as well. Maybe even after the next presidential debate or next big political thing that happens in this climate space. But yeah, Trey, let's just keep this conversation going, man.
Leave y'all with some final thoughts, right? Definitely do some research, right? Get a chance to read through some of Project 25, some of the policies that they're trying to implement. Definitely research Robert F. Kennedy, the independent party candidate. And yeah, Trey, what you said would definitely made a lot of sense as far as people moving from Biden to going over to Trump. Because yeah, I definitely don't see Trump supporters voting for Biden. But for the other way around, though, yeah, for sure. So yeah, I mean, we are definitely in a very interesting place in history. And yeah, I just hope that this video does land in front of the right eyes. And even if it doesn't fall in front of any politicians' eyes, I hope for the people that are watching this, we make the best informed decisions for ourselves, and we start educating other people so they know not only all our options, but exactly what the people who are in the position, what they're trying to implement as well. So do you have any last final thoughts for us to close out?
Yeah, I just want everybody to do the research. I want everybody to stay aware of what's going on. Don't just listen to the news, please. There's too many other news outlets out there that actually share the truth. TikTok being one of them. You definitely want to filter out those videos as well, just to get to the source of the truth. But I want everybody to have an understanding of how this affects them personally when you're making a decision on who to vote for, number one. And then number two, how do we proactively get involved in the community instead of just passively seeing what happens from our households, right? How do we actually make sure that we're holding these people accountable when we do elect them into office, whether it's someone who we, like, or someone who has opposing views, right? I just want us Americans to, really take heed on what's happening and realize that we don't have to be fearful. You understand what I'm saying?
True.
And the reason why we're fearful is because you know,
We think we don't have no control over what's going to happen.
We feel like we have no control of what's going to happen because they have control over us, you know, based on the predictive programming, based on the propaganda, and based on a lot of the other things as far as the conditioning as well. But I want to leave you guys with this.
As long as we remember that we have control and that.
I was going to say there's power in numbers. I was going
to add it to your point that is.
Go ahead, Trey. My fault, bro. No, there's power in numbers. If we come together, you know, under one consciousness, you know, to fight the common enemy, you know, then there's ground to win. There's room to win. There's room to do what we want to do. You get what I'm saying? But go ahead with your point.
No, I was gonna kind of add on to what you were saying. Like, there's power in the numbers. We, as the people, we're more powerful than these people who we elected into position. Right? Like we make the decision. And just to kind of leave it off, right, with one of our president, actually one of our best presidents in history, right? He says, right, Albert A. Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln, excuse me, right? Abraham Lincoln. He says that a house divided amongst itself cannot stand. So we got to start banding together, uniting, and start really moving this country in the right direction.
100%. 100%. Well, that's it for this episode, people. I hope you guys liked it. Let us know what you think in the comments. We want you guys to continue these conversations. Ask your family as far as if they should be, you know, moving in whatever direction based on what you guys feel as though who's the best fit as a president. And definitely do your research. Definitely do your research.
Definitely do your research. And remember, not everything's black and white, and extreme of either side is never good. Right? There's somewhere in the middle. Right? That's where we find the best balance. But that's going to conclude this episode of Power to the People Radio. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. See y'all next week on the next episode, next topic. Trey, another banger. Appreciate you for tuning in with me, man.
For sure. Make sure y'all like,
home, you guys
comment,
have a wonderful
subscribe. Day. Make sure y'all share the video.
Yes, sir.
And then check out the link in the description. We'll have a few things for you guys to reference some of the talking points that we have.
Yes, sir. Y'all stay blessed, stay beautiful, and stay powerful.
Peace.